know who I came to talk to tonight? But somebody in this room or watching this stream has been bleeding in silence. You've been loving people who don't love you back. You've been showing up for folks who wouldn't even notice if you disappeared. You've been breaking your back trying to carry people who wouldn't even hold your hand. And I came with a word from heaven to tell you, enough is enough. You've been crying over people who were never assigned to your destiny. You've been asking God why they won't change. But the real question is, why are you still holding on? Some of you are so busy trying to keep people in your life who don't even care if you're alive. You're giving VIP access to people who wouldn't even buy a ticket to your growth. But tonight is your turning point. Tonight is your release. And yet you're the one bringing the whole meal. You're showing up for people who don't even clap when you win. And let's be honest, you've been lying to yourself, telling yourself it's loyalty, when really it's fear. You're afraid that if you stop showing up, you'll be forgotten. But let me tell you the truth. If they forget you just because you stop performing, they never remembered you to begin with. See, the enemy doesn't always come dressed in red with horns and a pitchfork. Sometimes the enemy comes dressed as neglect, as silence, as indifference. And if you're not careful, you'll start internalizing that silence like it's your fault. You'll start shrinking yourself to fit into rooms where you were always meant to stand tall. God didn't make you in his image just so you could live like an option in someone else's life. You were fearfully and wonderfully made, not partially, not halfway, wonderfully made. But the enemy wants you to forget that. He wants to convince you that your value is tied to how much people like you or how many people stay. And so you chase, you beg, you explain yourself over and over again to people who are already committed to misunderstanding you. You keep auditioning for roles you already qualify for. And God is saying, why are you still applying for acceptance in rooms I already removed you from? You spend years letting people write on the chalkboard of your identity with their rejection, their inconsistency, their disregard. But I came to tell you tonight, it's time to erase their handwriting. It's time to take the pen back and let God rewrite your worth, because here's the truth. What you tolerate, you teach. If you tolerate being ignored, you teach them to overlook you. If you tolerate being used, you teach them that your soul is dispensable. You keep wondering why your spirit is tired, why you can't pray like you used to, why you wake up in the morning already exhausted. It's because emotional poverty is draining your spiritual account. You've been overdrawn in relationships that are bankrupt. You've been sowing into soil that has no intention of bearing fruit. And I'm here to tell you, it's not noble to stay where you're not valued. It's not loyalty, it's self-abandonment. Let's go deeper. Some of you were raised to believe that love has to hurt to be real, that attention must be earned, that you must prove your worth, even in friendships, even in family. So now you're an adult, still proving, still pleasing, still bending yourself backwards to gain crumbs of affection. But real love doesn't require performance. It doesn't demand that you shrink or silence your soul. Love honors, love sees, love stays, even when applause fades. You've been crying at night over people who sleep just fine. You've been praying for people who don't even think about you. And you're losing sleep over folks who will forget your name if you stop texting. When God says, I see you, I never sleep, I never slumber, and I care. So why are you allowing people who don't even care to define the rhythm of your heart? You're more than their opinions. You're more than their silence. You're more than their inconsistency. And I know it's hard to accept that some people you love deeply never saw your heart. It hurts, but Frio is on the other side of truth. And the truth is this: you were not made to be an afterthought. Don't waste another season explaining your value to people who have no spiritual vision. Don't let their blindness become your identity. If they can't see the light in you, it's because they're not aligned with the God who made you. But when you finally see yourself through God's eyes, you'll stop chasing people and start chasing purpose. So I dare you. I dare you to stop asking, why don't they love me? And start asking, why do I keep giving my love to people who don't know what to do with it? Because the moment you recognize your worth is the moment you walk different, talk different, pray different. You stop waiting for invitations and start building rooms. You stop begging for a seat and realize you were always the table. And until you see that, you'll stay bound. But once you do, once you really, truly see it, that's when freedom begins. There comes a time in your life when you have to accept the reality that no matter how much love you pour out, some things just won't live again. And I know that sounds hard, maybe even a little harsh, but it's the truth that's going to set somebody free tonight. You can't keep watering what God has already pronounced dead. You can't keep trying to resuscitate relationships that God has already removed his breath from. See, some of you are exhausted, not because you're lazy, not because you don't have faith, not because you don't pray, but because you're pouring gallons of grace into ground that no longer bears fruit. And then you get discouraged when nothing changes, but the soil isn't the problem, it's the season. That season is over. That connection has expired. And no matter how much love you give, how many calls you make, how many tears you cry, it will not rise again, because it's not your job to resurrect what God buried. But because we're human, because we have history, because our hearts are invested, we keep showing up to the same empty well, hoping this time we'll find water. And we fool ourselves by calling it faith, when really it's just fear. Fear of letting go, fear of starting over, fear of admitting that something we loved doesn't love us back. And I know some of y'all don't want to hear this, but sometimes faith is not holding on. Sometimes faith is letting go. Faith is trusting that if it's really yours, it will flourish without force. That if it's meant for you, it won't keep draining you. God doesn't give us blessings wrapped in burnout. God doesn't call us to assignments that crush us with confusion. You've been praying, Lord, give me peace. But God can't give you peace where there's still desperation. You've been asking him to bless what you're building, but the blueprint was never his. And no matter how beautifully you decorate it, if the foundation is broken, the whole house will fall. That's why you got to stop investing in what refuses to grow. Because when you water dead things, you don't just waste water, you weaken yourself. You drain your spirit. You lose your joy. And before you know it, you become bitter while trying to be a blessing. Some of you are staying in friendships that no longer serve your spirit. You're staying in environments that you've outgrown just because it's familiar. And I get it. Familiarity feels safe, but safe doesn't mean sacred. Just because you've known someone for years doesn't mean they still have a place in your destiny. Longevity doesn't equal loyalty, and comfort doesn't always mean calling. And here's the dangerous part. When you keep watering what's dead, you begin to believe the lie that it's your fault it's not growing. The enemy starts whispering, maybe if you gave more. Maybe if you prayed harder, maybe if you changed yourself just a little more, they'd love you right. They'd stay this time. They'd see your heart. And that lie will have you carrying guilt for something that was never yours to fix. You are not the Savior. You are not the healer. You are not the resurrection. That's not your job. You are not responsible for making something live that doesn't want to be alive. And when date? Because God sent me to tell you, it's time to free yourself from the ones who don't care about you. Oh yes, this ain't gonna be a soft word. This is a surgical word. This is a word that cuts, but it heals. This is a word that will pull you out of emotional bondage, out of spiritual fatigue, and into the freedom you've been praying for. So if you're tired of pretending, If you're tired of pouring and never been poured into, if you're tired of dying in spaces where you're supposed to be growing, then lean in. Don't just hear this message, receive it. Because what I'm about to speak, not just a speech, it's your deliverance. Let me tell you something that might shake your soul a little bit tonight. You will never be free until you realize what you're worth. You've been sitting at tables where you're barely being. It's not cruel to stop watering something that's not growing. It's wisdom, it's discernment, and it's necessary. Because your peace is too precious, your energy too sacred, your calling too important to waste on people, places, and patterns that no longer produce. You've been called to walk in freedom. This is simply this. Put the watering can down. Some of the greatest blessings in your life didn't come wrapped in yes. They came wrapped in rejection. I know it didn't feel like a blessing when they walked away. I know it didn't feel like grace when they stopped calling, stopped caring, stopped showing up. But let me tell you something you might not see in the middle of the pain. Sometimes their rejection is heaven's redirect. You were never meant to stay in every room. You finally accept that when you stop trying to revive what God already let go. That's when healing begins. Stop rehearsing the same conversations. Stop rewriting the past with better endings. Stop praying for what God is trying to protect you from. Because sometimes the blessing is not in what he gives, but in what he removes. He closed the door not to punish you, but to preserve you. He ended the connection not to hurt you, but to preserve you. He ended the connection not to hurt you, but to preserve you. He ended the connection not to hurt you, but to preserve you. He ended the connection not to hurt you, but to preserve you. He ended the connection not to hurt you, but to preserve you. He ended the connection not to hurt you, but to preserve you. He ended the connection not to hurt you, but to preserve you. He ended the connection not to hurt you, but as long as your hands are full of what's dead, you won't be able to receive what's living. And the longer you water dead things, the more you delay your own harvest. So you've got a decision to make. Will you keep wasting your strength on what's finished? Or will you trust God to lead you into something that's fruitful? It's not a betrayal to let go. It's hurt. You weren't called to hold on to everybody you met. And just because someone was part of your journey doesn't mean they were assigned to your destination. God will allow people to exit your life, not because he's punishing you, but because he's protecting you. You cried over who left, but what you didn't know is God was clearing the way. You grieved the separation, but he was pulling you closer to your purpose. I know it's hard. Rejection stings. It shakes your confidence. It makes you question what you did wrong. You start replaying every word, every conversation, asking yourself, was I not enough? What could I have done differently? But let me tell you something straight. You don't lose value just because they didn't see it. Their inability to recognize your worth is not an indication that you don't. It's delivering you out of relationships that were rooted in dysfunction, delivering you out of environments that were limiting your growth, delivering you from attachments that looked like love but were fueled by control. Don't you know that if they were meant to stay, nothing could have moved them? If they were sent by God, they wouldn't have treated you like an option, and yet you're still looking at the door they walked out of, crying over people God removed. But what you call rejection, God calls release. What you thought was abandonment was actually alignment. He wasn't breaking your heart to punish you. He was breaking the illusion that you needed them to be whole. You've been stuck in places God already moved you from emotionally. Still stuck in heartbreak that happened 5 years ago. Still playing have any. Some people are spiritually blind, emotionally immature, or just plain selfish. And none of that has anything to do with your identity. You've got to stop assigning your self-worth to someone else's inability to appreciate you. You are not disposable. You are not forgettable. You are not invisible to the one who made you. They may have overlooked you, but God saw you the whole time. They may have walked out, but God never left. And sometimes he'll allow people to exit so he can finally enter. See, we ask God to guide us, to grow us, to elevate us. And then we get upset when he starts removing the people who can't go where we're going. You can't ask for next level and still want to hold on to last season. God will strip the comfort to stretch the calling. And sometimes the very thing you thought was destroying, highlight reels in your head, hoping maybe they'll come back. Maybe they'll apologize. Maybe they'll finally get it. But here's the truth. They might never get it. They might never say sorry. They might never understand how deeply they hurt you. But their understanding is not your closure. God is your closure. Rejection was never meant to define you. It was meant to redirect you. Our prayer. And when you stop chasing after people who rejected you, you start discovering the people and places where you truly belong. You start experiencing peace you didn't know you were missing. You start building again without the burden of begging. You thought the loss was the end, but it was actually the beginning. It was a start, a version of you that no longer needs validation from broken people. It was the beginning of a mindset that no longer needs permission to walk in power. You can't keep allowing your past to sit in the front row of your future. At some point, you have to stop grieving who left and start growing from what you learned. And can I tell you something? If they rejected you, it's because they weren't assigned to love the real you. They couldn't handle your authenticity. They couldn't handle your growth. They couldn't handle your purpose. And instead of trying to fit yourself into spaces that shrink you, it's time to rise into places that celebrate you. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're not forgotten. You're being positioned. And that pain was not to destroy you. It was to push you into clarity, push you into confidence, push you into calling. So stop waiting for closure from people who never had the capacity to hold your heart. You've cried long enough. You've wondered long enough. You've begged long enough. Walk away knowing that their rejection was your redirection. You've been carrying people who were never meant to be your responsibility. You've been trying to be everything to everybody, and it's wearing you down. You smile for them, pray for them, answer every call, meet every need, and yet when your heart is heavy, when your soul is tired, when you need someone to lean on, there's silence. You're the strong one, the dependable one, the one everyone runs to. But who do you run to? You're not tired because you're weak. You're tired because you're overextended. You're giving out of a place that hasn't been refilled. And you're being stretched in every direction, and you call it love, but it's not love if it's costing you through yourself. Somewhere along the way, you confuse being available with being whole. But you can't heal others when you're bleeding. You can't keep pouring out when your cup is cracked. Some of you have wrapped your identity in being needed. You feel guilty when you set boundaries. You feel selfish when you say no. You've been conditioned to think that your worth is proven by how much you can endure. So you stay, you serve, you sacrifice, even when it's killing your joy, even when it's robbing your peace. You tell yourself they need me. But the truth is, some of them don't need you. They're just comfortable with you carrying the load they refuse to bear. It's a hard truth, but you need to hear it. You are not Jesus. You are not the Savior. You are not the solution to everyone's chaos. And it is not your assignment. That's enabling. And it's costing you your purpose. It's distracting you from your calling. It's keeping you tied up in their crisis while your own life is on pause. You've got to stop letting guilt hold you hostage. Yes, you love them. Yes, you want the best for them, but you are not required to sacrifice your sanity just to prove your loyalty. You can love people and still step back. You can care and still say, I can't do this anymore. That doesn't make you wrong. That doesn't make you selfish. That makes you wise. Even Jesus had moments where he stepped away from the crowd. He retreated to rest. He didn't heal every person he walked by. He didn't perform miracles on demand. He knew his assignment and he protected his boundaries. If the Son of God made space to rest, what makes you think you don't need to? But here's rescue people who refuse to grow. You can encourage them, you can pray for them, you can walk with them, but you cannot carry them. Especially when they have no intention of walking on their own. You've mistaken toxic loyalty for godly love. You think because you've been friends since childhood, or because they're family, or because you feel responsible, that you have to stay in positions that drain you. But let me tell you something, God will never call you to something that consistently robs you of his peace. If it's God ordained, it will strengthen you. It will grow you. It will challenge you, but it will not destroy you. Some of y'all become emotional crutches. People lean on you and they never learn how to stand. And instead of challenging them to rise, you keep lowering yourself to carry them. That's not love. And if they don't, they were never meant to stay. Let this be the day you stop feeling guilty for letting go of people who only stay close when they benefit. Let this be the moment you stop answering every crisis call that steals your calm. Let this be the turning point where you finally choose you, your mental health, your emotional balance, your spiritual life. Because you matter too. You cannot be everything to everyone and still be true to yourself. You keep waiting for them to see you, to acknowledge the sacrifice, to honor the loyalty, to finally say, I see what you've been doing for me. But what happens when they never say it? What do you do when the people you've loved the most are the ones who treat you like you're invisible? That's the pain nobody talks about. The pain of being present for people who, the real issue. Some of you are afraid that if you stop being everything to them, they'll leave. And the truth is, they might, but if your value in their life is only based on what you do for them, then their love was never real to begin with. That was a transaction, not a relationship. Real love doesn't disappear when the giving stops. Real love doesn't punish you for protecting your peace. So what's it going to be? Are you going to keep breaking yourself down to build others up? Are you going to keep showing up empty while pretending to be full? Or are you finally going to realize that you can't be everything to everybody and still be whole for yourself? You don't have to carry everyone. You don't have to explain your boundaries. You don't owe anyone an apology for protecting your peace. If they really care, they'll act like you're not even there. And yet you stay. You keep showing up hoping that maybe this time they'll notice. This time they'll appreciate it. You overextend yourself trying to earn what should have been freely given. Basic human care. You settle for crumbs of attention when you've been serving meals of devotion. But listen, love shouldn't have to be earned through exhaustion. Respect shouldn't come only after you've bled. And yet, some of you are performing in relationships, bending yourself into unnatural shapes just to be tolerated. You were never made to live like that. You think that if you just love harder, pray harder, stay longer, they'll finally change. But what if they don't? What if the problem isn't your lack of effort, but their lack of capacity? Because some people don't know how to love on your level. They can't give what they've never received. They can't speak life when all they know is silence. And it's not your fault. That's the lie the enemy keeps whispering. It's your fault they act like that. Maybe if you were different. Maybe if you toned it down. Maybe if you needed less. No, you are not too much. You are not the problem. Some of you have been conditioned to survive off emotional scraps. And now when someone gives you the bare minimum, you call it love. When someone checks on you once in a while, you call it support. But you've got to raise your standard. You've got to stop confusing attention with affection. Don't let the drought of your past teach you to settle for less than you deserve. Let's talk truth. You can't make someone value you by devaluing yourself. You can't force someone to care by proving your worth. If they can't see the gift that you are, it's because they're not equipped to handle it. And it hurts. It hurts when the people you thought would be permanent treat you like a placeholder. When the ones you trusted with your heart carry it like it's disposable. That kind of pain leaves a scar. But even scars are proof that healing is happening. You can't keep waiting on people to change who never even asked to be different. Some folks are not going to grow because they don't want to. Some people are not going to love you better because they don't believe they need to. And you staying won't fix that. Your tears won't fix that. Your presence won't convict someone who's already numb to your worth. At some point, you have to stop trying to convince people to treat you right and start treating yourself right. At some point, you have to stop begging for reciprocity and walk where you are celebrated, not merely tolerated. Because here's the truth. When you stop accepting less, less stops showing up. When you stop answering to mistreatment, it stops knocking on your door. But as long as you tolerate it, it will continue. And I know why you stay. I know it's because deep down you believe they can love you better. You see the potential in them. You remember the good moments, but don't let potential keep you a prisoner. You cannot build a healthy life on what you hope they become. If who they are right now is draining you, breaking you, silencing you, then it's time to reevaluate why you're still holding on. You were created for more than this. You were made in the image of a God who is love, pure, whole, and constant. And he never called you to relationships that make you question your identity. He never assigns you to people who would teach you to hate yourself just to keep the peace. That's not love. That's bondage. You don't have to keep proving yourself to people who were never meant to carry your heart. You don't have to keep standing in places where your presence is optional and your absence goes unnoticed. You don't have to keep loving people who make you feel like a burden. Because if it costs your peace, it's too expensive. If it silences your soul, it's not your space. And here's the hard truth. It's not your job to make them care. Some people will never show up for you in the way you hoped. And that's not your failure. That's just a sign. It's time to stop showing up where love doesn't live. So, if they don't see you, that's fine. If they don't clap for you, that's fine. If they don't value you, that's fine. But you better start seeing you. You better start clapping for yourself. You better start walking like someone who knows exactly who they are. Because the moment you stop begging them to care is the moment you start truly loving yourself. Some of you are standing at the edge of freedom, but you're still holding the hand of your past, still tethered to people, to patterns, to pain that no longer serves your growth. And God is trying to pull you into healing, into clarity, into peace, but you can't walk forward when your heart is still backward. You can't claim your future while your loyalty is still tied to what broke you. Let me tell you something that might sound simple, but will shake you if you let it. You don't have to stay where you no longer belong. You don't have to keep showing up in rooms that silence your voice, in relationships that dismiss your value, in spaces that suffocate your spirit. Just because you were there yesterday doesn't mean you have to be there tomorrow. You're allowed to change. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to walk away. But that takes courage. That takes honesty. Because it's easier to stay where you've always been. It's easier to stay bound to what you know, even when it hurts, than to face the unknown of healing. Pain can become familiar. Dysfunction can become home. And that's why some of you stay, not because it's good, but because it's comfortable. But I came to tell you today that comfort is not your calling. God didn't create you to shrink, to settle, to survive on scraps of peace. He called you to live and live abundantly. It feels like you're giving up. But there's a difference between giving up and being released. There's a difference between quitting and finally choosing peace. You're not weak for walking away. You're not wrong for choosing yourself. You've spent years compromising your own peace to keep toxic things alive. You've exhausted your energy trying to maintain connections that were never mutual. But now it's the time to break the pattern. That was the moment to say, I'm done being drained. And here's the truth. Freedom doesn't always feel good at first. Sometimes it feels like loneliness. Sometimes it feels like grief because you're detaching from something that once mattered. You're breaking soul ties. You're unlearning habits. You're shedding versions of yourself that survived in brokenness. But don't confuse temporary discomfort with the wrong decision. Sometimes peace comes wrapped in silence. Sometimes